Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we are continuing our coverage of Winter Storm Oaklee as it is now moving into the northeast throughout the day today with its most significant impacts thus far. We have seen thunder, snow, thunder, sleet, and thunder freezing rain in parts of the southern plains, as well as feet of snow in the Rockies. We have seen ice accretion amounts maybe even up to a half an inch in parts of Arkansas. But the Northeast not only will be seeing the most significant snow of this storm system, but also potentially that same amount or similar to in freezing rain, as well as impacting the most populated area of the country. So, let's take a look at this Weather Channel article, which is just a continuation of the one that we were looking at yesterday. And we are going to scroll down to our winter weather alerts, which we're going to actually pass because I have the National Weather Service over there. So, during the day on Thursday, we're going to see snow stretch from the Twin Cities all the way down to Oklahoma City, St. Louis, and Indianapolis, with icing continuing in Dallas and Little Rock and those areas in pink, and sleet in between in that purple. We are also going to see flooding rains in parts of the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys before Thursday night into Friday. When everything moves into the northeast, the storm strengthens. We see icing in areas such as New York City and Philadelphia, maybe even DC and Pittsburgh and Charleston, as well as heavy snowfall, especially around Boston, Bangor, Burlington, Syracuse, and then still significant snowfall in areas like southern New England and areas of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And that's just limiting to this general area, not stretching out into areas like Ohio, Indiana, and then icing in Virginia, and potentially even into parts of, Kentucky. But we're just going to leave it at that for now. So, snowfall. You can see that most of the snowfall during the day on Thursday is going to be relatively light, staying below 3 inches for the most part, except for maybe areas such as Cleveland, getting maybe even close to 6 inches of snowfall. But you get into the northeast, you have those purples, and especially those darker purples where you could see areas over a foot. Now, the Weather Channel has this much more isolated. I can't draw that well, so I just went into a full-on blob. Sorry about that, but I do not proclaim myself an artist. Now, in terms of ice, we are potentially looking at more significant icing. This icing in areas such as Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Texas is ongoing and will continue. But we will also see a new icing threat start to form in areas such as Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, and then maybe even with, a little bit of strengthening or weakening or slight shifts, even into the New York City area. You can see that those darker pinks are not that far away from New York City, which I don't have to tell many, is the most populated urban center of the United States, as well as that pink being very close to Philadelphia and DC, two other major population centers of the Northeast and the entire United States as a whole. So, in terms of our current winter weather alerts in the Northeast, we have winter storm watches for Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, as well as much of our winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings, as I described yesterday. So, let's move on here to the HRRR. We're going to be looking at both the HRRR and the NAM, comparing the two throughout this video. So, the HRRR, in just simple comparisons here, is showing a much more snowy system. Not only is there going to be much more snow as a whole, but higher amounts as well. You can see that those areas of sleet are mostly pertain to Pennsylvania, parts of New Jersey, but stay south of Long Island, and most of that does not change very quickly and we do see some areas such as southern New England get more snowfall than if we were going to look at the NAM 3-kilometer model, which is currently showing much more sleet, with much of the areas that we were just talking about switching over to sleet fairly rapidly, and we can see that sleet going up all the way even into Boston. And now that is a very broad difference there. That's, let's say about 100 miles or so, give or take. So that is a significant difference in that rain, snow, sleet, freezing rain line overall. Now, what does that do to our snow and ice totals? The HRRR is showing a much more bullish system, and for the current impacts the storm is showing, I do believe the HRRR a lot more, as well as it being a much more high-resolution model. Just overall, it does have less hours to compute, therefore I am using this at the moment. So we could see areas such as Boston, Portsmouth, Portland get close to a foot of snow. We also see areas like New York in that 1 to 2 inch range, but Philadelphia, DC, Baltimore notably left out, but that is just how the track of the system will go. But you even look at very small differences, such as New York City to, let's say, New Haven, Connecticut. You go from 1 to 4 inches just like that, and from New York to Hartford, you're going up by 7 inches of snowfall, and that's the major difference here, and that's where our wintry precipitation comes into play compared to the NAM 3-kilometer model, where New York gets nothing. Let's refresh real quick so I can get my cursor readout. So New York gets nothing, Boston's getting 6 inches, Portland and Portsmouth could get around a foot, depending on how close you are to the coastline, but you can see that overall it is a less bullish area of snowfall, with just the higher elevations and the very core of the system getting over a foot of snowfall. Then you look at the same comparison here, so New York getting nothing and Hartford only getting 4 or 5 inches of snowfall. That's where our freezing rain comes into play, where the HRRR is showing much lighter amounts. Gonna have to refresh again because of the cursor readout. Sometimes Pivotal Weather does that. The HRRR has those higher accretion amounts in parts of Pennsylvania, where they do see that more often because of the elevation change. And then you can see here that we have close to 1 inch of freezing rain, as well as a general 1/4 to 1/2 an inch across the New York metro, specifically in parts of southern New York, parts of New Jersey, but notably New York, pretty much in that 1/10 of an inch range. Boston with no freezing precipitation, areas around Philadelphia potentially getting into that 1/4 of an inch range as well. Same thing with the Baltimore area and the DC area as well. Finally, let's go to our NAM 3-kilometer model, ice, and you can see here that areas such as New York, let's refresh again. So areas such as New York could be seeing easily a 1/4 of an inch of ice, maybe even more, and areas such as Philadelphia could be seeing a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch of ice, whereas the NAM is showing less ice overall in parts of western Pennsylvania. Not significant, but going down from 1 inch of ice to a 1/2 an inch of ice, and both these models are typically very bullish on ice accretion amounts. You can usually cut them by about 1/3, and you can kind of get more accurate totals. Usually when I see 1 inch, it usually shows probably about 1/3 of an inch, and areas where it shows like a 1/2 an inch typically gets like maybe 1/4, but it's typically very accurate with where areas are going to get ice, and that's why I show these models compared to actual, amounts, and this is not very accurate. Now, in terms of what I'm thinking, I did make a map, and let's start off with our snow. So in this light blue, it's 0 to 3 inches. This includes New York and its surrounding areas, all 5 boroughs. I do think that some areas could be on the higher end of this range. We could be seeing some areas, such as in parts of the Bronx and Westchester County, getting that 3-inch amounts, and then you have areas of, eastern New Jersey getting that 3 inches potentially as well as northern Maine getting 0 to 3 inches because of how the low pressure in the HRRR, as well as my prediction, is going a little bit further south, so that's why they're left out of that 3 to 6. Speaking of that 3 to 6, we typically use this as a buffer zone, and this is the areas that will be most likely switching over to sleet for at least a third. So at least a third of the storm being sleet, and you can see that line there, such as southern Connecticut, southern Rhode Island, very southern Massachusetts, parts of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, western New York, and then the exception here is Maine, which is just going to be lacking snow for the entirety of the event in northern Maine because of the track of the storm. Again, even though the track of the storm does go north, it's weirdly located because the actual low pressure system doesn't actually correlate to our rain snow line as much as another area of lower pressure does, but this is just the area of lowest pressure. It's weird, but we could just ignore that in this case. We also have 6 to 12 inches, which is widespread from Maine all the way down to Connecticut, New York, and Pennsylvania. These are the areas that are going to be staying mostly snow, but also seeing maybe a little bit of sleet, especially on the southern edge right here in areas such as, Connecticut, southern New York, northeast Pennsylvania, the Cape Cod area of Massachusetts, and then the areas north of this purple area are just the areas that won't be seeing the heaviest of the snowfall, but could be seeing consistent light to moderate snowfall. Then you have that 1 to 2 feet area, which is the area that's going to be seeing that consistent moderate to heavy snowfall. Mostly going to be moderate with the duration of this event, but it is still possible to see maybe 14, 15-inch amounts depending on where bands set up and everything like that for any of these areas. So 0 to 3 inches, you're guaranteed, nothing. 3 to 6, I'd say that you're guaranteed an inch or two. 6 to 12, you're guaranteed about 2 to 3 inches, and 1 to 2 feet, I would guarantee you guys about 6 inches of snowfall. I do have the 6 to 12 inch range pretty low in that 2 to 3 inch range instead of that 4 to 6 inch range because of these areas in the southern part of that 6 to 12 inch range, which could be seeing that switch over to sleet early, therefore they do not see as high of snow totals. So do take a little bit of an asterisk on this. There is a chance that you could see much less than these snowfall totals. This is bullish on purpose because I do think that the amount of sleet that the NAM is showing is a bit absurd, but it is still possible. Now, in terms of ice, this area, the red lines, is where icing is likely, and we could see, again, up to potentially even a third of an inch of ice in some spots. Then rain, some areas of southern New Jersey and southeast Pennsylvania will be seeing mostly rain, and you could see a half an inch to an inch in some spots there. And then in parts of western Pennsylvania, which also could be seeing some significant rainfall as well, you could see over an inch in some spots. But that is my final predictions for Winter Storm Oaklee in the Northeast. I will be providing an update, either an update tomorrow or focusing on the next system, depends on how things go. But that is all I have for today. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell. And I'll see you guys next time.